What is good? What is good? What's going on, everybody? I appreciate you guys checking in. I'm here. I'm here with one of the greats, one of the most controversial people when we talk about Raiders. That's SevereRaider. I appreciate you joining, man. What's good with you? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Anytime, man. Anytime you want to hop on together, man. I'm always down to hop on with with a guy like yourself, man, that knows the game.
No, I appreciate you. I was gonna see if Chris with Protect the Show is gonna be able to come on. He's traveling. He's a working man, so he's doing his thing. But I'm glad that you're able to kind of come on and kind of talk a little bit of Raiders. A lot's been going on, whether it be Kolton Miller, JPJ. We're going to talk a little bit about the quarterback situation. Obviously, um, we signed a couple linebackers. We'll talk about what that means to the linebacker position, given the fact that there's a ton of second and third stringers playing this weekend against San Francisco. And then we'll talk about San Francisco, kind of what we're looking forward to and kind of what we can expect out of this game. So we'll break that down as well. But first, appreciate everybody in the chats right now. My 2 cents, what's good, man? How you doing? Chris, Protect the Shield, you're in here, man. Appreciate you. Hopefully business travel is treating you well. And Jen Slinger, hey, I was able to meet up with you last week for open practice. Last night I was sitting with you. I appreciate you, man. You're good people. I look forward to watching a couple games with you this season.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Open practice yesterday was a lot of fun. Severe, we were just talking offline for a second. Last week, I kind of went solo, was able to soak it all in. Yesterday was my opportunity to kind of bring my girls into the stadium and got to let them experience Raider Nation. What was actually really good and was cool is that it was a lot more packed than I expected it to be. We don't know just how many Raider fans are here in the Las Vegas area because anytime there's a home game, it's 80% opposing teams fans. And so it was good to see that basically almost the entire lower bowl was completely full, and it's a practice on a weekday.
Yeah.
Practice on a weekday, people work. We have nothing but the service industry around here. So a lot of people work a lot of odd hours. And so it was good. It was good to see people showing out. A couple other guys that I know you're familiar with. Leo was there. I got to meet up with Leo. First time meeting him. Good people as well. And I know,
Good dude.
Turf was there. Wasn't able to link up with him, but then also Angelo,
Oh yeah.
Raider transplant. He was there.
Yes.
So, but it was good. But we were talking about it just before we jumped on. And, again, yesterday I was kind of paying attention to my girls, let them do their thing. I want them to have fun. But one of the plays, and I highly suggest everybody go on social media, try to find it. But the play that Max Crosby made last night in open practice was out of all my years of playing and coaching football and watching football on TV is one of the best plays I think I've ever seen. And when we're offline, I don't know if you got a chance to look at it, right?
Yeah. I got a chance to see the play.
So to kind of break it down a little bit, you got Max Crosby that was basically at his standard defensive end position, kind of playing that wide 9 technique. And Minshew was actually in gun.
Yeah.
You're sitting in gun. You had Devontae Adams lined up wide on Max Crosby's side. And it was basically like a little slip screen, a quick little slip screen. And so Gardner Minshew, 4 or 5 yards back, had to get that ball and just kind of sidearm that thing to Devontae Adams. And Max Crosby gets off the line so quickly, bats that ball up in the air, has the ability to gather himself after diving and tipping that ball, tracks that ball in the air, dives to pick it off, rolls his way back onto his feet and takes it off for 6.
Yes.
And like you were saying before offline, you said a couple people said that's all Gardner Minshew. No, that's just how good Max Crosby is. I mean, for him to be able to get off the ball that quickly, get in the throwing lane of that ball that deep in the backfield, and then have the wherewithal to be able to track that ball after you tip it and get up and go for 6 it was probably one of the most impressive football plays I think I've ever seen. So what's your thoughts on it?
Oh yeah, man. I completely agree because I don't think there's a lot of guys that they're going to be able to make that play. I don't think there's a lot of guys that have that flexibility, that get off to put all those maneuver, to chain all that sequence of movements together, right? To not only have that quick of a get off, have the awareness to tip the ball, then track the ball, catch the ball, gather his feet and get up and take off. I will say this though. I will say that in the real game situation, I think Harrison Bryant would have been able to tackle him. Like Harrison Bryant touched him at like 40, but obviously they weren't bringing people down to the ground in that particular situation. But yeah, man, like as you said, that's one of the more impressive plays I've ever seen, because there's literally nothing anybody or any other quarterback would have been able to do differently. As soon as he got the snap, he looked to his right, he sidearmed it to prevent it from being tipped. Max still got his hands on the ball, tipped it, caught it, and took off. So I mean, just extremely impressive play, man. I think of all the players on defense, obviously Max is the one that we're the least worried about. Can't say the same about some other people.
I'm with you, but if you watch it, I actually think because it was practice, Max kind of got up, and I think he was about to kind of just celebrate, but then he thought, "No, I'm gonna take off."
Yeah.
And so if it was real game, he might have got up and just
Quicker.
took off. So maybe Bryant doesn't catch him, but I agree with you. Bryant did catch up a little bit, but
Yeah.
I mean, again, kind of going back, just one of the most impressive plays I think I've ever seen, just football play in general.
No.
And so that definitely got the crowd riled up in that stadium, and it made that place light up a little bit. So that was definitely exciting. And so a couple more people joining in the chat. Huey P, what's going on, man? Appreciate you coming through. Salute to you. And one of the biggest news, one of the things coming up just recently is both JPJ coming off the PUP list as well as Kolton Miller.
Yes.
And I've expressed just kind of who I was more concerned about in one of my videos last week. My biggest concern was JPJ just because of the concussion issues. Yeah. You got Kolton Miller that is a veteran, so he's going to understand kind of how to prepare his body, prepare himself to be ready for week one. But let's start with Kolton Miller. What are your thoughts on Kolton Miller truly being ready for week one after kind of slow rolling the off season? But then he's got to face guys like Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is still a good edge rusher. You still got to prepare for him. You got Joey Bosa on the other side. Do you think Kolton Miller is going to be ready full steam week one to kind of handle this pass rush?
So I don't think he's going to be ready full steam, especially, this is a zone blocking system. And it's very important that those guys, they basically damn near operate on a string, right? You kind of have to have a really good understanding of the different angles you want to do. There's different combination, but all that stuff. So I don't think he's going to be ready from that standpoint, just because, like the guy to his right is a brand new guy, somebody he's never really worked with before. Now maybe it would be different, even though it's a new system. If Parham was still to his right, maybe there would be a little bit of familiarity there. But the fact that to start the season, at least, it's going to be Whitehair. Likely, I think that changes things a little bit. The only positive, I know if you can't say it's a positive, is that he was dealing with an upper body injury. So in terms of conditioning, his conditioning should still be good. So we shouldn't have to worry about him from that standpoint. But anytime you're dealing with a shoulder, like when you're blocking, it is a lot of shoulder. There's a lot of locking out. It's a lot of a lot of that stuff. So that could put some unnecessary stress on his shoulder, especially early on. So we kind of have to see how his body responds.
And that's and to me, that's one of the biggest things is you're talking about an offensive lineman that whenever you kind of play in that interior, every single play you're punching, right? You're punching, you're making contact. It puts a lot of pressure on that shoulder. And so that could go at any time.
Yeah.
I hope that they were playing it safe, which I think they were playing it completely safe, making sure he's 110%. Back in the day, and so you played ball as well, unless you get that full scrimmage, if Kolton would have had at least one game where he got a couple series in and you kind of get that itch out a little bit, that allows you to be prepared, ready for that week one. But for him to get his first time real live action, it might take him a full quarter, maybe even 2, just to get going. And that's going to be tough. You got to get up on this Chargers team. If we look at what Jim Harbaugh wants to do, is he wants to pound the rock, right? And when you pound the rock, you control the clock. And so that's what, if we kind of find ourselves behind a little bit and we got to get this thing going, I hope that Kolton just comes 110%. It may take him a couple series, maybe even a couple quarters to kind of get into it, but hopefully that doesn't affect us in any way negatively. But one thing I do want to touch on, and to your point, is that was probably my biggest concern going into this offseason, not seeing Kolton Miller and JPJ, was they haven't been able to get that chemistry side by side in live situation, whether it be just scrimmage, inter squad scrimmage, whatever it may be. They could be working off to the side, right? They can work off to the side and they can communicate. You're obviously working inside the offensive line room, just working on how you're going to communicate. But nothing compares to live game situation where you're going to have live bullets coming at you. And so that's my biggest concern with Kolton Miller not being out there and maybe them playing it safe, is how are they going to communicate? That's a real big concern for myself. And then on the flip side, we got JPJ. Came off the PUP list, but he's got a different concern. He's got a concussion situation. He's off the PUP list. That's great. He's got a history of concussions, which is very concerning. But how do you feel? What's your feeling? One, do you think JPJ truly is going to start week 1? And if not, who do you think replaces him? I know you kind of talked about Cody Whitehair, but do you think even Cody Whitehair is the right guy to replace him at this time?
Yeah, I think right now, I think the obvious choice is going to be Cody Whitehair. I don't think JPJ is going to be ready for week 1. He's basically missed the entire off season at this point. Like he started off in OTA, so he missed OTA, most of OTAs, all of training camp, all of preseason so far. So I don't see any way that he's ready to hop in to an NFL game, into live action immediately and start playing ball. And as you said, the fact that it was a concussion, I know we still don't know where he got the concussion from, because it's like he got it before it was live, right? Before there was any real live action. So I don't know how it could have happened, but the fact that it did happen, that could be of huge concern, because we know what a concussion can do to a guy. And people that have repeated concussions, like we saw with Tua, right? That at one point people were questioning whether or not Tua should continue to play in the NFL, and he's playing quarterback, the most protected player on the field. JPJ is going to be a guy who's going to be he's going to have a collision every single play, and then in the zone blocking, if they're cutting guys and he's going to have to go down, that's that makes it easier for you to take a knee to the helmet, which is also a way that concussions get caused. So, I mean, I think there is going to be a lot of concern there, because I was expecting him to be a very valuable piece of this offensive line going forward, and eventually, possibly transition over to our starting center. But now, his career could potentially be in jeopardy depending on the severity of these concussions.
But and that's the hard part, right? He was a second round pick. He dropped because of some medical concerns. And that's the biggest thing, is, are they being just very careful? Because how did he get a concussion in non-contact drills? You just mentioned Tua. We saw what happened to Tua.
Yeah.
We saw Tua get his head slammed into the ground, and he basically froze up. Right. So that was bad. We know that was bad. But then how long were we in training camp for in Costa Mesa? I think it was it 17 days?
Yes.
17 days. So that's over 2 weeks. And then, so he was basically out. It could have been in upwards of almost 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That he was completely out on the PUP list with a concussion off of non-contact drills. To me, that's just concerning. And it's more concerning, one, because to your point, he could be the future of that position for us. Maybe transferring to center at some point, but that he could be that future. And so, I agree with you. I don't know if he's going to be truly ready for week one. If he does play week one, expect a lot of mistakes, because again, just like with Kolton Miller, it's going to take him a little bit to kind of get his feet back under him, making sure that his eyes are looking correctly, and that communication between him and Kolton Miller, it's not there yet. That's going to take, sometimes that could take a half a season to develop for them just to understand the communication and how each other work. Yeah. But you're also learning a brand new system. So Kolton Miller's learning a brand new system as well. So that's going to be interesting. Now, if JPJ doesn't go, and chat, we're going to kind of dive into you guys. Let us know. Let us know. Do you think JPJ is going to start week one against the Chargers? And if they do, or if he does, what's your confidence factor? Rate it 1 to 10. 1 to 10. 10, you got all the confidence in the world. He's going to be that player we drafted. Or 1, he's going to get basically, taken off the field halfway through the second quarter. Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think? But I agree with you. Most likely, Cody Whitehair is going to be the guy. That's who is playing in the preseason games. I have my concerns with Cody Whitehair. That very first game against the Vikings, I think he struggled. He showed where his weaknesses are, but then he played decently well against the Cowboys. Unfortunately, you're going against second and third stringers. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, in one of my videos, I basically posted, I said, look, there's a lot of our Raider players that look good against the Cowboys, but how well can you evaluate that when you're supposed to be a projected starter? Not saying Cody Whitehair's projected starter, but if you are a starter week one and you look good against second and third stringers, how are we supposed to evaluate that? So
that's a very good point.
That's the hard part is, would it be worth looking at an Andres Pete at the guard position? Not sure if he's rotated in there a little bit. I'm not sure. I know that he's had his Pro Bowl years at guard. I think he'd be better off at a guard on this offensive line. But don't be surprised if JPJ goes down or doesn't start, and we need to start rotating some guys in. Man, one guy, DJ Glaze. Why not try him down at the guard position? Again, that's only if he's gotten some reps and he's in practice. We don't know what's always going on in practice, but we might see some shuffling going on this offensive line as the season goes on if we are not healthy.
Nah, I completely agree. And when Glaze was coming out, there were some people that projected that he would eventually be forced to move to guard at the next level. So that could be something interesting. Another thing that could be interesting is Thayer Munford. Thayer Munford, he's a guy that we experimented with at guard before. He played both tackle and guard at Ohio State. James Craig has said in the past that Thayer Munford is more comfortable on the left side. Could he be more comfortable playing at a left guard, even though we know left tackle is the position they were referring to? But could he find a comfort zone playing left guard? That's a question mark right there. I will say one thing we can kind of take a little bit of a excel on with Kolton Miller is that Kolton Miller, he has been with Tom Cable. I want to say he had Tom Cable maybe at college too, but for sure he had Tom Cable early in his career. So he should be used to his own blocking system. Because Tom
Cable was he wasn't with us when we drafted him.
He was.
Tom Cable was with us with the Gruden years because Gruden drafted Kolton Miller.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom Cable. We had Tom Cable back.
Dude, there's that memory, Severe. Yeah, there it is. Pops up every time.
Tom Cable was offensive coordinator for UCLA. I don't know if he was there when I don't think he was there when Kolton was there, but he was offensive coordinator previously for UCLA. So I mean, Kolton should be well versed and very comfortable with his own blocking system. He had some success early on in his career with it. It wasn't until we brought Josh McDaniels in and Brusilla where we changed philosophies. But so reverting back to that, it's a little bit of a homecoming. It should be some familiarity there for Kolton Miller. But as you said before, like it could take guys half a season to get comfortable, and that's after these guys have gone through OTAs and training camp in the preseason. So these are guys won't even get that opportunity to do that, and to just throw them into live game action. That could be a bit of concern right there.
Yeah, shout out to Chris, Protect the Shield. JBJ, he did get hurt during the Senior Bowl practice. Hurt himself at the I didn't hear that he hurt himself at the combine. I know that there was an injury kind of on the lower half a little bit coming into rookie minicamp, stuff like that. I don't know. I don't remember the exact details, but the thing was, it wasn't that much of a concern given the fact that he did join the team. He did start practicing, which was great. But man, once he was out of training camp going to Costa Mesa, that was definitely concerning. So yeah, man. So we touched on the offensive line, which is good. I'm hoping the best for these guys. I do hope Kolton Miller just comes on strong, which I think he will. It might just take him a quarter or two to kind of get his feet under him a little bit. But JPJ, well, obviously we're just hoping the best. So couple more guys coming in. Jason Downs, what's good, man? How you doing? Raider Rebel, appreciate you rolling through.
Oh, Rebels in the house.
Rebels in the house.
Oh, okay.
Rebels in getting this comment section.
You came out of hiding, Rebel. I see. Good to see you, brother.
I'm hearing something went down.
I was getting concerned. Then there was something that went down. Something that went down, I believe, was it Sunday morning? Because there was a certain rebellious Raider who was talking a whole lot of trash.
I like it
about a particular quarterback.
And
then we didn't hear anything from him for a little while. So man, good to see you. Good to see you.
And we're about to get in that subject, but Kelvin Cooper, what's up, man? Appreciate you rolling through. Daniel Kim, what's going on, man? Appreciate you coming into the comments section. So let's talk about it, right? Raider Rebel, appreciate you coming through. You're hitting us up with the next topic. Gardner Minshew started, named as the week 1 starter going into the season. Obviously, there was a lot of talks on whether or not Gardner Minshew truly won the battle. And that's my one of my biggest questions is he's got the starting job. In your opinion, Severe, did he truly win the battle against Aiden O'Connell? Did he win that job?
Where's my fedora? Where's my fedora for this conversation? I need my. Nah, man. I don't think either guy really. And this is something that AP kept going back to. He kept over and over. He kept saying he was waiting for somebody to really grab the job, by the horns and take control of it and really, kind of run away with it. And neither guy really separated themselves, right? Early on in OTAs, the reporting out of that was that Aiden O'Connell was the guy that was kind of the leader in the clubhouse, right? But as I spoke about previously, and as Chris so eloquently put it, he was doing all that stuff in booty shorts. Like he was like, nobody cares about that stuff, right? Like that's important. That's an important part of the process. But once it got into actual training camp, we started seeing some 7-on-7 and especially 11-on-11s. That's where essentially every beat writer that wasn't compromised, and there's a certain one that is compromised. I'm not gonna mention them by name, but there's one that is compromised. But just about every other beat writer said that Gardner Minshew was leading. Like he was better in training camp. He was much better in the scrimmage. He had his best day. Aiden O'Connell had his worst day. And in my opinion, in that first preseason game, Gardner Minshew, he was a better player. People talk about how many more drives he had. We only had 3 more pass attempts. He completed one less, still threw for 41 more yards, put up 14 more points. So I don't want to hear these excuses about how many, especially when Aiden O'Connell got a drive into the red zone. He missed the read on the switch release, and then he took a sack on the very next play. So I think that Gardner Minshew did enough to win the job, and I'm glad that the easy thing would for AP to do would be to say, "Hey, you know what? Aiden O'Connell was the guy last year. He helped me get this head coaching position. I'm gonna basically give him a scholarship." The bold move was to go with a guy that's a little bit less of a safe pick, but offers the
Yeah.
offense more upside this year, and shows that nobody here is on scholarship. If you're gonna win the job, you have to win the job. And throughout the process, Gardner Minshew was the guy that has been better.
One of the things that I was saying, and look, I agree with you. I don't think any one of the quarterbacks clearly won the job. Right? It was a battle down to even this last game.
Yeah.
Right? Aiden O'Connell, he had the brutal pick to end his playing time against the Cowboys. But Gardner Minshew, he should have had a pick six too. That was on him. That backer just didn't catch it. He would have been gone for six.
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell actually had better stats that game. He actually led him to a touchdown. But Gardner Minshew looked good that first preseason game, and that was actually, I believe, against some better starters or some better players against when we played against the Vikings. But I don't think that anyone won it. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised to hear that Gardner Minshew was doing better earlier in training camp because Gardner Minshew is a veteran. He's been through multiple systems. He understands kind of the lingo. He understands what NFL offensive coordinators want to do at this level. Right. So he's got that veteran presence. He already has the upper hand on Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell was thrown into with Josh McDaniels, and then he got a offensive coordinator that wasn't supposed to be an offensive coordinator out of Bo Hardery, right? And so this is Aiden O'Connell's real offseason learning a true offensive system and still be able to play with some of the number ones. And so it wasn't surprising that Gardner Minshew was looking better in training camp. I think it's going to take Aiden O'Connell some time to truly understand the system, kind of how NFL systems work. But Gardner Minshew, you can kind of just throw him in and you can give him a minimal playbook and he'll understand it like that because he's been through three other systems, three other offensive coordinators. So not surprising that he got the nod. I think when myself and Chris with Protect the Shield, we were on together. I think it was with your boy Raider Rebel. I think
that marathon you guys had, man.
Yeah, that was a marathon. I think that if there wasn't a clear winner, I would have went with Minshew just because of what our defense is. If our defense plays like that potentially top 5 defense, you need someone that's a veteran that can come in and understand the moment, understand even just have a better grasp of the offensive system. I think he runs Getsy's system better because Getsy does like to run those RPOs, which Minshew is better at without question. But then at the same time, it's looking at our schedule. Our schedule, we go up against a lot of very good defenses that have some very prominent pass rushers. They're going to come off that edge. We might need someone that's a little more mobile in the pocket. Now, even though he's mobile, even though he's a veteran, it's going to come with potential inaccurate passes. That's one of the things that I really didn't like to see against the Cowboys, just how inaccurate Minshew looked on some of his throws. And that's going to obviously get you in trouble. And that's who he is. That's how he was against Indianapolis. So with some of the good, you also get some of the bad. But also, do you think this also has some indication of our confidence level within the O-line and the healthy O-line? Because if we do have an O-line that is banged up a little bit, if JPJ doesn't play, Cody Whitehair has to play, something happens to Kolton Miller, maybe even Theron Mumford, when he goes against a very good pass rusher, how does he do? Do we maybe need someone that's a little more mobile as a quarterback to go against these good pass rushers and possibly a banged up O-line? Do you think that kind of played a role in the decision?
I think that does play a role in the decision. As you said, just the first few weeks of the season, we see Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Matt Buke, Myles Garrett, the D tackle from Carolina, was it Derek Willis? Like that's just the first 4
Yeah.
games. So that you already have a plethora of guys that can get after the quarterback and cause some havoc. So I think it does behoove the Antonio Pierce and Lugetti to get a guy in there that has a little bit more mobility. That has, hey, you know what? On these secondary break opportunities, I can make some plays. Or if the pocket breaks down, I can get out of dodge. I can get 3-4 yards and kind of keep us on schedule. So I think that helps there. And another thing, and this is kind of nitpicky, it could
No,
be very, it could
from
be very,
you?
it could
No
be very,
way.
it could be very nitpicky. But when Aiden O'Connell threw that pick, and it's preseason, so I don't fault him all the way, but I think there's a play there to be made for him to stop a touchdown, and he was either didn't care to make the play, or he's just so slow footed that he didn't have the ability to make the play. And that kind of bothers me, because even if it's preseason, like as a competitor, I would hope that your first nature is not, let this guy go. I will hope your first nature is, oh man, I got to run this down. Like I just threw a bad pass. Like I got to get back. I got to make the play. I'm essentially the safety right now, and I didn't see that sense of urgency out of Aiden O'Connell, and that kind of speaks to mental makeup, in my opinion.
So the only thing that I know on that play is he came backside. It was very late because it almost looked like that was his third read.
Very late.
And so it looked like there was somebody in his face. So when he released that ball, I'm not sure if that offensive lineman that was in his face kind of blocked him from getting there. But I agree. I mean, as a quarterback, that's your natural reaction. You throw a pick, you take off.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but it could be he just got some slow feet. So we all know he ain't the fastest guy. Daniel Kim, you got a question, real talk from a coach's perspective. What are some issues you see with Aiden O'Connell that he really needs to improve and can improve on at this level? In my opinion, in breaking down his film, there was a lot of times where he just, and this could just be him still trying to learn the system and understand the system. There was a lot of plays that he just didn't see the read. Yeah. It was, I want to say against the Cowboys on the goal line. It was the play before. It's kind of hard to explain, but we sent a receiver in motion. It was a play before he actually ended up throwing the touchdown. We send DJ Turner in motion, and the entire defense just kind of shifts down, and you automatically know that it's zone. Exactly. And DJ Turner's he motioned to the outside receiver on the left-hand side, outside of I can't think Christian Wilkerson. And the corner was over Christian Wilkerson and didn't drop off to DJ Turner. And the corner stayed over Christian Wilkerson, and DJ Turner ended up being all alone in the back of the end zone.
Yeah. And
that's your first read as a quarterback. When you see motion, you see defense shift, not a man crossing with them. You know you're looking at that. You know it's zone. You're looking at that corner that's on that side. And because DJ Turner motioned outside of Christian Wilkerson to make now DJ Turner the number one receiver, that corner had to extend and drop off, and he didn't. And that's your automatic read to know DJ Turner's going to the corner, and he wants the corner wide open, and Aiden O'Connell just never even looked that way. Yeah. So is that him just having to learn the system? Possibly. But your motion man that's your read. That tells you what the defense is going to do, what type of defense they're in, and it should have been an automatic read. So again, could be him just trying to learn the system, but I think that in some instances, he's got to really start to maybe be a little bit better at just reading the defense with these motions. Because the one thing I really like about Getsy's offense is he runs a lot of motion. That's something that Josh McDaniels didn't do. He didn't run a lot of motion, which allows you to kind of get that pre-snap read on what the defense wants to do. Right. And Getsy does it a lot, which I really like. And so it helps out the quarterback. And unfortunately, and there's been a handful of plays that, and trust me, Gardner's done the same thing. That overthrow to Jacoby Myers towards the beginning of the Cowboys game to left-hand side. I think we were inside the red zone or inside the 20, 25. Yeah. That overthrow, he should have went opposite way. He should have went to the opposite way because you're going to the wide side of the field. Yeah. And the way that our offensive routes went and it was designed, it put DJ Turner one-on-one with the safety with distance between them. And so if he just hit DJ Turner, he had about 7-8 yards to make that safety miss, and he could have went into the end zone.
Yeah.
But then he tried to force it to Jacoby Meyer, which was just a strange read to me. So both can improve on that. But maybe it's a little bit of Aiden O'Connell just needs to kind of learn and understand the system just a little bit better, which will take time.
No. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that there are some processing things there. Like you spoke about that. Like I said, I spoke about in the Vikings game when Tucker and Jacoby Myers, they were running that switch release basically in the goal line situation. And, it looked like the guys were in zone, right? If the guys are in man, they're going to follow their man. If they're in zone, they're going to essentially stay where they're at. And, I think he made a poor read. He tried to, first of all, you have to know your personnel. You're not going to throw a fade to Trey Tucker in the end zone. And he had Jacoby Myers wide open, in his line of sight, on the slant that would have been a touchdown. So I just think that some of that stuff has to improve. Also, just him being a leader. When you're a quarterback, you are the leader, or you should be the leader of the team, right? That is your role. And while people have praised him for being more vocal this year, if you go from a 1 to a 3 or from a 2 to a 4, that's still not good, right? You're still not good enough. You need to be more vocal. You need to show more. You need to have more of a presence. We talked about it on the sideline, like when me, you and Chris, we had our first show, right? We talked about Gardner Minshew, how the camera was he was over there hyping guys up and talking to guys and Aiden O'Connell, he just doesn't do that, and I think that is something that some guys need. And I don't think he provides that. So I think that's something, and it may just be a personality trait of his. Maybe he just doesn't feel comfortable doing that.
I don't know if you saw it, but did you see Minshew's pregame pep talk before they hit
the knick-knack paddywhack?
He just let's just improve on that. We don't need another Jameis Winston pep talks. Okay, so let's just make sure we improve on that part. But I agree with you. I mean, he is definitely the hype man. He's gonna be out there. He's gonna be ready to go. And we talked about this before. Like he just matches. He can match, not to the extent of Max Crosby, but just kind of match that energy where he can get hyped on that sideline. And so he definitely does bring that. So Raider Rebel, you're coming out. Question for both of you: how long do you think it is if Gardner doesn't play well before they scream for AOC?
So now you're sounding like a certain beat writer who's also already planning for Aiden O'Connell, talking about what Luke Getsy will do to improve Aiden O'Connell. Like, well, right now our starting quarterback is Gardner Minshew, and I'm not going into the season expecting Gardner Minshew to play poorly. I will say this: I do expect both quarterbacks to see starts this year, right? I think that's just the NFL. That they're surprisingly, one thing we didn't have to really worry about with Derek Carr was him being available. He was available just about every game throughout his entire career. Now, playing on the field may not have always been up to snuff, but he was always there. He rarely missed. Maybe the only start he missed was after coincidentally that taking that sack against the Colts, that put him out. That the week 17 and put him out for the playoffs. But other than that, I don't think he ever really missed a start. So, and then when he was benched as well for Jarrett Stidham. So I think both guys will see starts this year. I don't think that Antonio Pierce is married to either one of these guys. I think he's going to go with whoever he feels gives him the best chance to win. Right now, he feels that Gardner Minshew gives this team and him the best chance to win. So that was the starter. But if at any point he feels that is no longer the case, whether that be because Gardner Minshew isn't playing well enough or because Aiden O'Connell is doing some things in practice that is impressing, I think he would not hesitate to make a move.
I think you have to be very careful. I think one of the reasons, and I'm not saying the main reason, but I'm one of the reasons why you don't just throw Aiden O'Connell in there is because he's still, I'm viewing this as his rookie year because of what happened to him last year. And so the last thing you want to do is throw Aiden O'Connell in, and then all of a sudden you pull him. And so that's why I was always kind of on that. Unless Aiden O'Connell just blew everybody away in preseason, you maybe go with that veteran because of the way our defense is. But the hard part is Gardner Minshew has the job, and now it's Gardner Minshew's responsibility to keep the job. And so he has to go out and he has to perform. If he goes and throws back-to-back weeks of multiple picks and he's losing games, right? We could still win games. He could still play a bad game, but if we win, I'm sorry, winning cures all. There's a lot of people that will just erase it from their head, erase it from their brain and move on to next week if you get a W. So that's the hard part is it's a combination of if Minshew plays bad, it's a combination. Does he play bad? And does he actually lose us the game? And how does he lose it? I mean, if it's potentially we're down, it's a 14-17 game and we need to drive down the field and he throws a pick. If we're not putting up points and then he can't get us over that hump to, for that game-winning drive. Not saying that that's all that it's going to take, but it's just he's got to lose the job. He's got to show that he's losing us games. That's the biggest thing for me. And I don't know at what point that could be. We could start the season 3-0. We could win the first 3 games, but then we lose the next 3 and we lose it because of Gardner. Then he's on the chopping block. We could win the first 3, lose the next 3, but it's not because of Gardner. It's because of something else, whether it be drop passes or fumbles by other players. I think we just have to see just kind of how Gardner conducts himself moving forward. What I can say is if he improves on his accuracy and if he minimizes the turnovers, I think Gardner's going to be perfectly fine. If our defense produces the way that we think they're going to, I think Gardner's going to be fine.
Yeah. But
it's up to Gardner just to lose it. And I don't know at what point, even though there's a lot of Aiden O'Connell fans, and there's a lot, we just have to see just kind of how Gardner Minshew works his way through this beginning half of the season. And honestly, we also have to give him a little bit of leeway because of the fact that he's learning a new system as well. There's going to be some kinks in the road. There's going to be some bumps. Just hopefully we can come on the better end of some of those bumps. So I hate to not give you a real answer, but that's just, it's so hard to tell right now.
See, the problem with your answer, 805, is that you're a rational person. So you expect people
I appreciate you.
You expect people to act rationally. And that is not the case. These fans they don't see with their eyes. They don't see with their brains. They see with their hearts. So if they're in their heart of hearts an Aiden O'Connell fan, no matter what Gardner Minshew does, they will say Aiden O'Connell could have done better. Or if he does something bad, they will say Aiden O'Connell wouldn't have done that. Perfect example. I told you, like I got people were texting me like, oh man, Gardner Minshew, he threw a pick 6 in practice, man. Like you were criticizing Aiden O'Connell. Look at your boy Gardner already throwing a pick 6 in practice. I'm like, man. And then I read a tweet from a certain beat writer who said, Gardner Minshew made a bad read and a lackadaisical throw that Max Crosby made an excellent play on and took for a pick 6. So I'm like, dang. So I started looking for this particular play. And I saw the play. I was like, this could not possibly be the same play that I saw described by this particular person. Because there was nothing about this that was a bad read. It was obvious it was a wide receiver screen. There was nothing about the throw that was lackadaisical because as soon as he had the ball, ball was out of his hands,
sidearmed it
to prevent it from being tipped. And Max Crosby is just that good of an athlete that he made that kind of play. So if you're getting this type of bias from somebody we're expecting unbiased reporting from, imagine what the fans are going to do.
I think we all know what the fans are going to do. Hey, big shout out, James Lillard. I appreciate you for the super chat. He says, unless AOC had a superbly. Yeah, my bad. Superbly better off season. This was Minshew's gig all the way. And let's do this for all the reasons I kind of just stated or we've stated in the past previously. I mean, I agree to an extent because We have a hard schedule coming up. Gardner Minshew allows Luke Getsy to have a more condensed playbook that he can understand because he's a veteran. He understands new systems. He's been through. Now this is his fourth. And at the same time, he can extend plays. He can extend the playbook. He can make more plays with his feet. And when you go up against the good defenses we're going to go against, he just allows Luke Getsy to kind of break out a little bit more. And so, I mean, James Little, I agree. Aiden O'Connell, he had to truly overtake and win the job in order for him to be really coined that number one. But again, I do think Gardner Minshew kind of allows Luke Getsy to be more of that offensive coordinator he wants to be, and not just a kind of pocket quarterback. So we'll kind of see how that kind of works out. But the one thing I do want to say, and Severe, to your point, and with the turnovers, one thing that, and I've mentioned this quite a bit on some of the videos that I put in, is I'm not crazy concerned about turnovers in the preseason with quarterbacks that are just learning new systems. It happens. You're going to be late to reads because you're still learning the system. Like Aiden O'Connell, as that last interception that he had, that's tough. He went to his third read. He went to it late. He shouldn't have gone to it late. I'll put that out there. He shouldn't have gone to it late because any in route, any dig route, you can't go late. Guys are going to jump it. But they're still learning a system. It's going to take them time. You're going to see those type of mistakes even going into the regular season because Gardner Minshew is still learning the system. So I wasn't really concerned about the interceptions during training camp. You want to clean them up a little bit when you got live bolts in your during the preseason actual games. You want them to clean that up a little bit, which is pretty good. They really didn't throw a lot of interceptions at all. I think Aiden O'Connell had one, and Gardner Minshew
had none.
He had none. That's actually good. Yeah. So I wasn't too concerned. I'm more concerned about, are they grasping the offense? Are they understanding it? Are they going to the right reads? Yeah. And that's where both of them kind of had a tough time. So we'll kind of see how it continues to play out. Again, hey, there's 47 in the chat. I appreciate all you guys coming through. If you can, please hit that like button. Shout out to my boy Severe for coming through, joining the show today. Make sure you go to his channel, subscribe to him. He throws out great content. He's all over the place. He likes to throw out those controversial opinions a little bit, get the crowd riled up a little bit. But definitely, at the end of the day, I respect what Severe always has to say. So go to him. Make sure you go and subscribe to his channel as well. But I appreciate everybody in the building. So that kind of takes up the quarterback talk. Let's go ahead and talk real quick on, we signed 2 linebackers just in the last few days. All right. Guys that are basically going to just be bodies for the most part. Both, I believe, one was an undrafted free agent that was signed by, I believe, Carolina. They waived him. We picked him up. But we're signing 2 free agents this early. We haven't seen Eichenberg yet. I don't think we saw Amari Burney last week in the game.
Not that I recall.
Luke Masters. Say what?
Not that I recall.
I don't think.
I don't recall seeing Burney.
So Luke Masterson, I'm really disappointed on how he's been playing these 2 preseason games. So do you think that there truly is a concern kind of in that backup? Amari Gainer's playing fairly well, but I don't think Amari Gainer's ready to start. I like that he's progressing. I do not think he's ready to start at all. I think he has a good chance at making this 53 only because Divine Diablo is going to get that second linebacker role, but he's got the injury history. Luke Masterson doesn't look very good. Amari Burney didn't get much playing time. Do you think there's really something going on in this linebacker room now that we're bringing on 2 linebackers late, possibly going to get some playing time, in this last preseason game? Do you think we have a lot of concerns with our depth at the linebacker position?
So I think, everybody knows how I feel about Luke, not Luke Masterson, but about Tommy Eichenberg.
Yes, we
won't get into that. But I'm not hitting the panic button just yet. I think I liked how Amari Burney played week 1 against the Vikings. I was very impressed with him. as well as Amari Gainer. I think both those guys are some young guys. They have very good athletic profiles. I think that they can be solid depth pieces. You cited the injury concerns with Diablo. That does concern me a little bit because if either one of those guys are kind of forced into duty early, um, it could be a bad situation. But I think more so we brought on these guys because I'm not sure what's going on with Bernie. It could be an injury situation. We heard that Tommy Eichenberg has a lower leg injury. You probably can't see my air quotes, lower leg injury. So at first he missed the game. It was personal reasons. The second game missed was a lower leg injury. So I think more than anything, we're not going to see starters in this last game, and we might not have had enough pieces at linebacker to effectively roll out units over a 4-quarter game. So I think that might have been a situation where we just bring these guys in. Maybe we take a look at them potentially later. Maybe we take a look at them for potential practice squad spots. But I'm not hitting the panic button on depth at linebacker just yet.
Yeah, it's so hard because, like you said in quotations, Eichenberg, we really don't know what's truly going on at this point. We hope that I guess it's hard to say, right? Because of why his aunt died. Okay, severe. His aunt died. Okay, we're gonna throw that out there.
His hamster.
But that's the hard part is, if he's dealing with an injury, hopefully he gets over it. But the thing is, you haven't played 2 preseason games. So if Divine Diablo does go down, Luke Masterson jumps in. Based on what I'm seeing in preseason, it's hard to see how well he's going to do. And I've said this multiple times. We can be a top 10 defense. We can be a top 5 defense depending on how our second corner plays and our second linebacker plays. If Divine Diablo steps up and plays lights out, I think we have a good chance at being a top 5 defense. If Jacorian Bennett, if he is slotted as that number 2, if he plays well, that's the difference between the top 10, top 5 defense. And so I hope Divine Diablo kind of gets over this kind of injury, this injury history. But if he does go down, I am concerned that if Luke Masterson has to come in and he plays the way he's been playing in the preseason, that's going to be tough. But at the same time, you got Eichenberg, which he's a 5th rounder. You're not gonna ask a whole lot out of a 5th rounder, but also being a 5th rounder, you better be there in preseason games because you better get live work at the NFL level if you even have a chance at possibly contributing as a starter on the defensive side.
So I will say this. Another reason why I'm not as concerned about the linebacker position is that, us, like most teams in the NFL, you spend a lot of time in sub packages. So you're going to be in it's going to be a 4-2-5. We even saw was it the entire first drive against the Vikings? We were in a 5-2-4. Which I've never you rarely see that. So
especially
I think
Patrick Graham. Patrick Graham's not he doesn't run a 5-man front.
So. So that's something you never really see. So I think we're going to spend a lot of time in nickel, and I think guys like Palomar, guys like maybe even Taylor, I think that they will spend some time playing in the box. Epps, he can play in the box. Even from time to time, Merritt can hop down and play a little bit in the box as well. So I think that
he showed he did it well during the Vikings, which is really great.
Exactly. So I think they will. If we do have some issues at linebacker, I think they will supplement linebacker with safety play because I think we have a lot of depth at safety, especially with the emergence of Palomar. I've heard he's been one of the standouts in camp. So I think that if there are some issues there with Diablo, and Diablo's he's not the biggest linebacker, and even lost weight this year to kind of be able to move a little bit better. So I don't think you're losing a lot there in terms of size, and you're even picking up a little bit more in terms of some athleticism. So I wouldn't be surprised if Diablo goes down, we just don't even really run a second linebacker out there. We just supplement him with Palomar.
Yeah, possibly, especially the way Patrick Graham works. Yeah. And big shout out, Cesar. I appreciate you with the super chat. Appreciate you, man. And Silver and Black Today. That's a great podcast as well. The 2 guys, I believe, Severe, have you had a chance to talk to Mo Moten over there? And those guys, I mean, they got a great podcast over Silver and Black today. So shout out to you guys. I appreciate you guys rolling through.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to Midtown Mo yet. I forget the other kind. LV Gully. I know his Twitter name. I don't forget his real name. But I know Mo. He's been on a lot of shows, man. I know he's a guy. He's very generous with his time. He's usually willing to hop on with some content creators, man. So and he knows his stuff. He seems like a really cool dude as well.
Yeah, and if you guys go over to Silver and Black today, go check them out. Go check out their channel. They put out a lot of content, and those guys, they really dive into it. They dive into it, and they stay close to what the Raiders are doing. So it's definitely one to watch. So appreciate you, Cesar. And so now we talked about linebackers a little bit. We picked up some free agents, and hopefully it does help with just maybe some bodies, guys that are most likely not going to make the roster, but you get to just see some more talent, which is good. You always want to evaluate what's around the league. Let's talk about the big topic, but I do want to kind of get through some of these. Nick 209, appreciate you coming through. Kenny Clark, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you rolling up.
Thanks you support there.
Yeah, Teddy 707, what's going on? Appreciate you. Hey, D Menace, you're always in the building with all these guys. You're always in here. Appreciate you rolling through. Nick 209, what's good? So, kind of as we go through this, let's get through the hot topic, right? And you and I touched on it for a second. How concerned are you with Tyree Wilson? I want to see improvement. That's my biggest thing. You don't need to be Max Crosby. You don't need to be Malcolm Kuntz right now. That's fine. I want to see improvement. Unfortunately, I don't see improvement. I see him actually regressing. And that's my biggest concern. So what are your thoughts on the status of Tyree Wilson as it stands right now?
Yeah, man. I am a person who was critical of the pick when we made the pick. I cited some of my concerns with him, his slow get off, his lack of pass rush moves, his ability to shed blocks consistently. Once guys get hands on him, he generally stays blocked. And these are all concerns that are still that he has these same concerns. And I know a lot of people said he lost his entire rookie offseason because of the foot injury. But then, let's say even if you say it take him, half the season to kind of to get healthy, then he still had that entire half a season, and this entire off season, and the fact that he really hasn't made any progress. And as you say, like there's been some regression. I think that is a concern, right? We saw him early in OTAs, and he looked like he transformed his body a little bit. I know everybody saw the pic from the Pass Rush Summit where he's standing there like a bouncer, next to John Jenkins. He's looking all swole.
I'm thinking Photoshop at this point, to be honest.
Yeah, man. So it's like I said, man. That's I think I said at the time. That looked like one of those pictures like he just got done, working out. He had all that. He was pumped. He had all that pump still. So he was just pumped
all that creatine through the muscle,
man. So and we were. I was hoping against hope, and I'm sure the Raiders were hoping as well that he would kind of have a big season, just because Malcolm Kuntz is a guy that's looking to build on what he did the second half of last year. And if he duplicates that performance and extrapolates it over an entire season, he's going to demand a nice chunk of change. And I'm sure the Raiders were hoping that they had a ready-made replacement for him in Tyree Wilson, and that if push came to shove, they could let him walk. But it's looking like the push ain't pushing and the shove ain't shoving. And it might be a situation where we have to pay Malcolm Kuntz because Tyree has yet to develop. So he's still a young guy. Like, I'm not ready to give up on him yet. No, he's entering his second season. He still hasn't even played a single game yet in his second season. So I'm not willing to jettison him or give up on him. But it is a concern. It is a concern.
So I mean, the hard part with Tyree is that I'm with you. He's young. I'm not throwing in the red flag or anything like that. I'm not bailing on him. But the thing is that I was hoping that Patrick Graham would have just played him on the interior, because I don't think he has what it takes to play off the edge. I mean, he showed it. He played off the edge against the Cowboys, and he looked horrible. I mean, he had, I think it was 2, maybe 3 opportunities to get to Trey Lance and just missed them. Took a bad angle. He's got horrible eye discipline. He doesn't see what's going on in front of him. And he's not as athletic and long as he is. He doesn't have the recovery speed to get there.
Yeah.
And
because he's not twitchy. He's athletic, but he's not twitchy. It's like, it's weird.
Correct. It's weird, and he doesn't have, and it's just speculation. He doesn't have that want to get to the ball carrier. Yes. If you know what I'm saying, like he doesn't have that. Like when you see Max go, you can see
as they say,
he wants to get there. You know what I'm saying? There's players that just want to get that ball carrier. To me, I feel like Tyree Wilson's almost going through the motions.
Yeah.
And that's what is really disappointing. And even when they moved him down into the interior, I was hoping he'd find some success because against the Cowboys, he played well into that third quarter, and he's going against second and third string offensive linemen, and he still couldn't do much.
Yeah.
And so he still stayed so one-dimensional. So I hope that he gets better, but I'm not. I now have that panic button out on the table. I see that panic button. It's there. It's staring at me. I don't have that hand over it just yet, but I just hope that he can really start to just hit a trigger. Just show us that you can just progress. That's my biggest thing. He's got time. We're not going to cut him. There are some rumors that we're going to trade. We'll get into that, not today, but at a different time. But I just want to see him progress. He's going to get plenty of playing time as the season goes on. I want to see progress. And so,
do you think he plays game 3?
Yes, I think we're going to see him. I think we see him against the 49ers.
We have to. I think we have to.
We have to.
We have to.
I think so.
Yeah, and as you said, you know, the panic button is definitely out on the table. Like you're not hovering yet, but you know, like when you're like when you like do the 2-finger walk with your index and your middle finger, and you're like kind of walking over to it, like that. We're doing the slow little walk over to it. So, and you know, like he just has to develop. It doesn't seem like he ever rushes with the plan. There's no plan in place. He doesn't have he only has a bull rush and a long arm. Then there's no counters off of there. Even if he could just learn a hump move, learn a rip, learn to swim, learn something to get these guys off of you, because you have these crazy long arms. And if you get hands on guys and lock out, you can basically do what you want, but you're so slow off the ball that you can't even get your hands on guys quick enough to do that. So there's a lot of work there. You know, people said it was blasphemous. I compared it the day after he was drafted. You can go check the tape. I compared it to Alex Leatherwood, where if you just look at the physical traits, this is everything you want. Like you just look at the guy. Look at Alex Leatherwood. Yeah. Look at Alex Leatherwood. His measurables, his athletic scores. He had some of the best athletic scores of any tackle since the 80s. I want to say he was top 10. But it's just that refinement and that polish and that dog, as you said. You know, you described it as that desire to get to the ball, but it just there's no dog there. And as old folks say, man, that you know that dog don't hunt.
I'm with you. I 100% agree. 100% agree. James Lillard, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you with the super chat. He says, "Real talk and severe thoughts on our safety room." I'll touch on this real quick because I'll tell you right now. I think our safety room is nasty. And when I say nasty, I think it's good. I mean, you look at, we just talked about Trayvon Merrick being able to kind of walk up into the box. I mean, what he showed against the Vikings that first game, I mean, he's continuing what he excelled in at the end of last year. Marcus Epps, I mean, I think his contract year is next year. Won't be surprised if we kind of see us try to bring him back. That our safety room as a whole, I think not only our starters, but our depth. Isaiah Palomau, I think we signed him for 1 year. It's kind of a prove it year. And I think he's just continuing off of the flashes that we saw last year. I have no concerns with our safety room. I'm excited. You know, one guy I know, Chris over Protect the Shield, some of you guys, Woo Governor, you guys are on him. I think he has a decent chance of making this team because one of the things that I saw he came in and was playing that nickel kind of on the inside, and he has that tenacity. He has that want to get to the ball. He showed flashes during that Cowboys game that he wants to come get somebody. And that's how you make a 53-man roster as an undrafted free agent. And so, not saying he's going to make it, but I think there's a good chance. He's kind of staking his claim. So I think our safety room is going to be solid. I'm excited to kind of see how they put these quarterbacks that we face in jeopardy, because these quarterbacks are going to drop back. They're going to try to hit a tight end over the middle. They're going to try to hit a seam. And you got Trayvon Merrick, you got Marcus Epps sitting in the seam, ready to jump those balls. And then they pull that ball back, and here's Max Crosby in your face.
Exactly.
So I'm excited. I'm excited about our safety room. How about you?
I'm man, very excited. This is a little bit of a hot take, but I think that Marcus Epps may be the third most important player on our defense. That guy, he is what they call a force multiplier. He's not necessarily the best player himself, but he makes everybody around him so much better. We saw almost instantaneously, the second he got here, Trayvon Merrick takes his game to the next level, right? Our defense as a whole improved. And we saw, Rex Ryan alluded to this as well. We saw what happened to the Eagles, who were one of the better defensive units the year prior. They fell off a cliff without him. Now, of course, it's not all him, but he has something to do with it. He's a guy that was he started all 17 games in the regular season and every game in the playoffs for a team that went to the Super Bowl. And then he comes over here, and this team is one of the better defensive units in the NFL. That I don't think that's a coincidence. So, I love our safety rooms. We talk about Palomar as well. I think Trey Taylor is a guy that is a nice developmental guy there also. So I think we did some good things in the defensive backfield. And, people said, and I didn't initially believe them, but after seeing some of these preseason games, people were saying that our most impressive unit throughout training camp and throughout the offseason was the secondary. And now I'm starting to believe it. Now I'm starting to believe it because those guys are the real deal.
I'm with you. And that's the hard part, right? We have a lot of mixed emotions. And kind of going back to Tyree real quick, I'll touch on it for a second because a lot of people in the chat, appreciate all you guys in the chat really engaging. Again, if you can, please hit that like button. Go to Severe's channel, man. Subscribe to him. He's always on 50-50 shows, late night, early morning shows. You guys do your thing. So you're all over it. But make sure you go to Severe's channel, subscribe to him as well. But, looking at some of these chats and talking about Tyree, you got guys that are basically saying, look, give him a year. And I agree with you. We're going to give him a year. He's definitely going to get another year. I don't see him he's not going to get cut. Trade talks could happen only because maybe the Raiders want to get the most out of him at a certain point, but he's definitely going to have time to continue to excel. And that's why I haven't hit the panic button. I just want to see him progress. But and I believe it was Huey P. He basically said a 7th round pick shouldn't be a project. To an extent, I agree. You want a 7 or a number 7 overall pick. You don't want them to be a project. I actually 100% agree.
Yes.
I am kind of sick and tired. Now I'll just put this out there. I'm sick and tired of all the projects that we draft in the first round. That's the hardest part, right? Is we always find out that something goes wrong, whether it be an injury or they're coming off of an injury. It's frustrating as a Raider fan. So, with that being said, we got the Niners coming up, right? We got the Niners coming up. Starters aren't playing. Let me know, Severe, with the backups coming in, and we got some positions that we really need to establish, right? That second cornerback position looks like Jacorian Bennett is probably going to win that. We didn't pick up a free agent. We didn't go out and get a veteran. Some of the guys like Stephon Gilmore. I know you weren't high on him, but he went. He signed, so he's gone.
Yes.
I think Adoree Jackson is still out there.
Yes.
But we didn't address it in free agency. We did get DC Richardson. We did pick up MJ Devonshire. We got a couple undrafted free agents, but it does look like Jacorian Bennett might be the guy. Obviously, we just talked about the linebacker position. Are there some second, third string guys that you are really going to be watching and focusing on this Friday against the Raiders?
Is Tommy Akinberry playing? You know, it's
His
my my my
his
preseason
neighbor's hamster
MVP.
needs to have
Yeah,
surgery. He's going to miss.
man, dang. Okay, well, cross him off the now. I think one guy you already brought up. I think Rule Governor. Shout out to Chris. I think Chris did an interview with him. Rebel. I think Rebel had him on as well. He's a guy I'm looking at. I think he showed, like you said, he showed some tenacity. He also showed some pretty good instincts as well.
Yeah.
So looking to see if he's able to build on that. MJ Devonshire. Now that's a guy who I liked. He had his struggles. He's had some struggles thus far this preseason, especially that game one. So looking to see, if he rebounds, if he's able to secure a roster spot. And we were talking about safeties, Chris Smith. He's a guy who I'm looking to see what he does. I think he actually played pretty well this past week. After having a rough week one against the Vikings as well. So let's see if he's able to build on that. I know he's more of a traditional post safety. That's a skill set. I mean, I don't think we truly have back there. Maybe a little bit in Merrick, but there hasn't really been a whole lot of ball production out of either one of our safeties. So I'm interested to see if he's a guy that's able to secure a roster spot, or will somebody like Trey Taylor, beat him out.
Yeah. So I mean, if we focus on the defensive side as we stand right now, one guy is I want to see who's going to be able to play that nickel corner. Because Nate Hobbs has that injury history. I hope he's healthy. He looks healthy. I mean, that's the one thing is Nate Hobbs, he looks like he's flying. He looks like he's kind of in his zone.
Yes.
And I want to know who's going to take over that nickel corner position. Because a lot of people say that Isaiah Palomau can come in. The only concern I have with that is Isaiah Palomau is more of a lengthy safety. Two of the there's three hardest positions in football. One, quarterback. Two, playing your number one corner.
Yes.
And three is the nickel corner.
Yes.
The nickel corner, you have to basically guard and cover the offense's fastest, quickest receiver.
Yes.
And usually they play in the slot, inside, close to the interior, which means they can go in any direction.
Exactly. They have a two-way go all the time. And you have no boundary to help.
Nothing. And so Isaiah Palomau isn't necessarily that guy. He's not gonna chase a Tank Dell, right? The receiver for Houston.
God, no.
You know what I'm saying? And so who's gonna be that nickel corner, that backup nickel corner? That's who I actually hope. Even like a Woo Governor, can he come in and show that he could possibly get a little physical with some of these interior guys? MJ Devonshire. He's got a little bit of speed. He's got some quickness. Can he battle for that nickel position? And so on the defensive side, you got the linebacker depth. You got the second corner who's going to play, but I really want to know on the defense who could also play a nickel corner in this defense. On the offensive side, for me, we got to see who's going to kind of be that receiver depth. Number one. Christian Wilkerson, he did well in the second game against the Cowboys. He did horrible, in my opinion, against the Vikings.
Horrible.
If Devonta Adams, Jacoby Myers goes down, we got Trey Tucker that's kind of slotted behind Jacoby Myers in the depth chart. And to me, it's like, okay, Trey Tucker, he's a slot guy. He's not an outside receiver. And so which one of these receivers, whether it be a guy like Ramel Keaton, is it Guyton? Are some of these guys going to step up and truly be that number two? Because, if Devonta Adams, Jacoby Myers goes down, we got to see who can kind of really slot in. If it is Christian Wilkerson, I think that we're going to be in some trouble. Because again, when he played against the Cowboys and did fairly well, you're going against number twos and number threes. He's number two as well, but like, how's this depth going to really play out? And then because of earlier in the show, we talked about the injuries to the offensive line, potential injuries, and just kind of how they can linger. Question is who's going to make it as those rotational pieces? You got some undrafted free agents. So one of the undrafted free agents from last year, which was, I think, one of the highest undrafted free agents we've ever paid, was Dalton Wagner.
Yes.
Is he finally going to make this roster? Is he going to finally get on this roster and start to solidify himself a spot? Because if not, he's most likely going to be gone. You got young guys like Andrew Coker, but Andrew Coker, I think, is on the injury list.
Yeah. I said, I know that's the guy you liked as well.
I like Andrew Coker. I think he does have the ability to make a 53-man roster, not necessarily a starter. But if somebody goes down, it's going to be really interesting to see just kind of how all this plays out with the offensive line. Because if JPJ doesn't start, and we got to go with Cody Whitehair, I'm extremely concerned. Because Cody Whitehair, I mean, I know I've said this before. I'm just not very confident in Cody Whitehair at all. He played on a horrible Chicago offensive line last year. He didn't do too well. He got benched, I believe it was with 2 or 3 games left in the season.
Yeah,
on a bad Bears line, and he did not look good against the Vikings. And so that's going to be that's going to be really interesting. And so, but yeah, that kind of, for me, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Offensive line depth, corner depth for the number 2, or who's going to kind of step in at the number 2 corner. And then obviously who can kind of play that slot corner. Because as of right now, I don't know who can play it if Nate Hobbs, does kind of past injuries kind of rear its ugly head. So,
yeah. Man, I forgot to bring up my guy Dylan Lobby as well. I forgot Dylan Lobby is the guy I'm looking at. I mean, and speaking of guys we picked up, I've been hearing that the converted tackle we picked up last year, McClendon Curtis, who I think the Seahawks grabbed him. I heard he's been kind of wrecking shop up there in camp with Seattle. So it would be nice to have that kind of guy on our roster right now. But yeah, man, the great point with the receivers. I honestly do think that the Raiders see Trey Tucker as a guy who can play inside and outside. And I believe he said in an interview that last year, I think like maybe 55 or 60% of his snaps were actually on the outside. So I think that maybe they see him as a guy that could play both. And if one of those other guys go down, maybe they just use Brock Bowers in kind of a big slot role. So we're going to be running a lot of 12 personnel regardless. So, but has Tulu Gershon played at all? He's a guy I
don't
like.
think he's played at all.
Yeah, he's a guy I like. So he must be injured as well.
I was high on him as well, just to make this 53, not not as a starter or what have you.
He has some return potential as well,
but you know what? Because of the way DJ Turner has played, he's finally showing that he can actually be a possible replacement if something were to happen to Trey Tucker. That he can kind of extend the field. And again, Real Raider Pete, shout out to you. I mean, you're bringing up DJ Turner. That was my biggest concern. Trey Tucker goes down. Who's going to be able to stretch that field? And DJ Turner looks like he can do it now. Let's all be honest. It's against the number 2s and 3s, with the Cowboys. And so let's hope that can transfer over to, playing against some number 1s.
Yeah.
But again, it's for a backup role. Trey Tucker's the guy. Yes. But I thought that LaDietrich Griffin could come in and stretch that field as well, help in the return game, because the return game is going to be huge this year. But DJ Turner did show he was a good returner last year, one of the better ones in the league. So I think I think it's going to be good. It's going to be good. But to your point, Severe, real quick, is the running backs. That's the one thing that I was disappointed to see against the Cowboys is we didn't see more of that running back rotation.
Yeah.
Zamir White was still getting carries in the third. We know he's going to be, the starting running back. He's going to get the bulk of the first down, second down carries. But we didn't see much of Dylan Lobby. I know we're going to see a lot of him, most likely on Friday against the 49ers, but I kind of want to see more of that running back rotation. We know who our number 1, number 2 is.
Yes.
I want to see a little more of that running back rotation against the Cowboys, but we're definitely see a lot. Do you think, and this, a lot of people have talked about it, he's been getting more playing time than we've seen. is this the last we're going to see of Sincere McCormick? Do you think he even has a shot at making this 53 or even practice squad?
Possibly practice squad, possibly, but I don't think he has a real shot at making 53. I think, Zamir, Madison, Lauby, I think all those guys are pretty much locked. And I think Amir Abdullah has done enough to make this roster as well, especially he is a special team contributor as well. So I think that, I know in the past we carried 6 running backs. I don't see us carrying more than 4, possibly 5. Since we don't have a true fullback on the roster anymore, maybe we replace that fullback position with another running back. In that case, maybe Sincere is able to sneak on here, but I think it's more likely that we carry an extra tight end than it is we carry more running backs. So, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, I think, what's the guy's name? Father and Cam, but it's a guy in front. Is it Shanker?
Yeah, Shanker.
Shanker, and then Harrison Bryant. So that can be 5. That could be 5 tight ends right there that we carry. So I wouldn't be surprised if we carry 5 tight ends and we only carry 4 running backs.
Yeah, and so we're gonna do this last question. Larry Fleming, appreciate you coming through, man. What's your opinion, guys? Pick up a promising quarterback for the practice squad and sign a slot cornerback behind Hobbs. In my opinion, when it comes to the corner, I think we've drafted enough and we have enough undrafted free agents on this squad to possibly try to see, do we have a backup slot corner on this roster currently? When it comes to quarterbacks are going to be tough because there's not a lot of free agent quarterbacks. I know one guy that I do like, and I'm starting to see him. I actually liked him when he was coming out of UCLA. Was that Dorian Robinson?
DTR?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually wanted us to pick him up late in that draft. Obviously, we didn't.
I did as well.
But I don't know if we leave any draft capital on the table as it stands right now. I think we need to really figure out what Gardner Minshew does.
Yes.
We got to figure out how Aiden O'Connell develops. I do think that they're gonna keep Carter Bradley on here. Carter Bradley, I think, is gonna stay on this roster at a minimum practice squad.
Yeah, I think practice squad.
And Nathan Peterman, he's a good third string quarterback.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
He knows Luke Getsy's system. He played the last 2 years in Getsy's system. He's going to be a great coach on the sideline, a coach in practice and in that quarterback room. I think Carter Bradley will most likely be that practice squad quarterback. I think that's what might end up happening. I don't know all the rules and ins and outs of the emergency quarterback situation, but I think Carter Bradley is probably going to be that practice squad guy because he didn't look too bad at the end of that Cowboys game.
He didn't.
He actually looked fairly confident. He got that ball out clean. He wasn't, a lot of times when you see those third and fourth string quarterbacks in preseason games, they look like they're rattled. They don't know what they're doing, But Carter Bradley actually looked like he was running fairly smooth. Yeah. So, Severe, what's your thoughts on possibly picking up a slot corner or maybe a young promising quarterback to solidify on the practice squad?
I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of cornerback position. I think we've done enough in terms of, using draft capital and with undrafted free agents. I think if we didn't go after a veteran guy early on in the process, I really don't see us going after a guy now. Maybe if there's a notable cut after roster cuts come down where there's a guy like, hey, you know what? We weren't expecting this guy to become available. Let's grab him up. But other than that, I really don't see it. In terms of quarterback, one of the things I wanted was a young developmental guy, and I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a guy that he fits that mold. I think he has all the traits. I spoke about it on the 50-50 show with Pharaoh. I'm a UCLA fan, so I saw him. I saw him. He is a local guy. He went to high school at Bishop Gorman. He's not a guy that's played a lot of time at quarterback position. Like, he hasn't played there his entire life. Most of his high school career, he played wide receiver because they had Tate Martell there, and Tate Martell was supposed to be one of the next superstar quarterbacks. And then he committed to Ohio State. Then he ran into some trouble. So DTR didn't play quarterback until his senior year, and then he came on. I don't even think he won the starting job his freshman year at UCLA, but then he ended up playing, 5 years under Chip Kelly, who was the guy we considered for the offensive coordinator position. I think he has some of the tools there. People compared him to Jalen Hurts when he was coming out. I think he has, he has great intangibles, incredible intangibles. In terms of intangibles, one of the best guys in the league in terms of his attitude, his energy, leadership, work ethic, all of that stuff is there. It's just the finer points of playing the quarterback position he doesn't have down, and he's a little bit older, so that is a concern. Will he ever learn those things?
And correct me if I'm wrong, because you're a UCLA fan, so you saw him. But I went back and I watched probably about 4 games of him to kind of get my determination on whether or not I wanted to draft him later in the rounds. And I thought he would have been a perfect situational guy to bring in. We already had Jimmy Garoppolo, so let him sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo for like a year, because I just felt like he just needed to refine his quarterback IQ. That was it. Like, I mean, he understood how to sit in the pocket. He understood how to extend the plays, but keep his eyes downfield. He was a mobile quarterback, which was really good to see. He had the arm to really make any throw on the field, but I just think he needed just more experience. He just needed to, and coming from and it would have been an interesting transition though, because going from the offense that he was running, he had to be put in the right situation to possibly have success, because he wasn't that traditional pocket style quarterback. And so I think the offensive system would have had to fit him right. Not saying that Josh McDaniel's system was going to be the right system, but I liked him as a quarterback. And I thought that if we could have drafted him, let him sit for about a year behind Garoppolo and kind of learn the game of football, learn at the NFL level, I thought he had promise. And his value may be getting him in, I forget when he was drafted, but I was hoping that if we could get him in like the 4th round,
I think he was.
I would have pulled the trigger.
I think he was drafted in the 5th.
Was it the 5th? Sure it was
the 5th, yeah.
So if we could have got him in the 4th round, I would have pulled the trigger, just because of what our quarterback situation looked like at the time. So
no, I agree.
But let's do this, man. I appreciate it. We've been on here for about an hour and a half. I appreciate you rolling through. Hey, I appreciate everybody in the chat. We still got a lot of people in the chat. You guys have been going crazy, throwing comments left and right. I apologize if I didn't keep up on all of them, but we're going to keep doing this. Severe, hope our boy Chris over Protect the Shield can jump on, with us next week, possibly recap the 49er game, but also then it's game week. It is game week going into week 1 against the Chargers, and we won't get into it, but it's going to be a big game going against Jim Harbaugh, that squad over there. It's a must win. You hate to say it week 1, but in my opinion, I think week 1 is a must win because of the history of, people wanted Jim Harbaugh, and AEP's got to show, hey, Mark Davis, you made the right decision. We got to beat up on the Chargers. We got to beat those boys and start that season off right in our home away from home at SoFi. So any last words?
Yeah, man, it's going to be very interesting. Congratulations to Gardner Minshew on winning the starting job. As I said before, I think both guys will see some meaningful playing time this year. I'm just hoping that, we are able to harness some of the momentum we had to end the season last year, and some of the defensive struggles we're having early. Once the regular season starts, guys lock in, because I think we're going to rely heavily on this defense, no matter which quarterback is under center. So I think, we're going to be a defensive-led team, and I'm hoping that we come out week 1 and we hit the ground running, man. I can't wait.
It's exciting, man. So again, everybody in the chat, I appreciate you. Before you exit, make sure you hit that like button, and then also go to Severe's channel, subscribe to him. He's all over it. He's always on the other podcast, which is great. But hopefully we'll jump on this, do it again next week, recap that Niner game, and get ready for the Chargers. So appreciate you, everybody. We'll see you guys soon. We'll see you on the next one. We're out.